Did you know that Hawaii, the most isolated archipelago on the planet, is home to volcanoes so powerful they are still creating new land as you read this? That beneath its waters lies the largest marine monument in the world, home to species that exist nowhere else on Earth? And that above its skies, the cleanest air ever recorded on the planet is measured, making it one of the key locations for global climate and astronomical research? Hawaii is not just paradise beaches, it's fire, it's science, and it's ancient Polynesian heritage. Get ready, because today you'll discover 35 incredible facts about Hawaii that will completely change the way you see the most extraordinary jewel of the Pacific. 35. The only royal palace in the United States. Hawaii holds the unique distinction of being the only state in the United States to house an actual royal palace. Located in the heart of downtown Honolulu on the island of Oahu, Iolani Palace stands as a grand testament to the kingdom that once thrived here. It served as the official residence of the last two monarchs of the Hawaiian kingdom, King Kalakaua and his sister, Queen Liliuokalani. This architectural marvel was completed in 1882 and was incredibly advanced for its time. It actually featured electricity and telephones before even the White House in Washington did. Imagine that. While the president was still lighting candles, the King of Hawaii was flipping switches. The design is a unique blend of Hawaiian royal tradition and European architectural influences, often called American Florentine. After the monarchy was overthrown in 1893, the palace was used as a capitol building for decades until it was restored and reopened as a museum in 1978. It remains a sacred symbol of Hawaiian history and sovereignty today, standing proudly amidst the modern skyscrapers of the city. It is a reminder that this island chain was once a fully recognized sovereign nation with its own sophisticated leadership and global presence. 34. One of the wettest spots on the entire planet. If you think your hometown is rainy, you have clearly never looked into the statistics for Mount Waialeale on the island of Kauai. This peak is consistently ranked among the wettest places on Earth. It averages roughly 450 inches of rain every single year. To put that into perspective, imagine a standard two-story house. The annual rainfall here could almost submerge that entire house from the ground to the roof. In 1982, the mountain recorded a staggering 683 inches of rain, which is an absolutely mind-boggling amount of water falling from the sky in just 365 days. The name Waialeale actually translates to overflowing water in the Hawaiian language, which is perhaps the most accurate description ever given to a geographical feature. The shape of the mountain creates a perfect trap for moisture-laden trade winds, forcing the air to rise and dump its cargo in a near-constant drizzle. Interestingly, just a few miles away on the leeward side of the island, the landscape is almost a desert. This creates a dramatic microclimate shift that is rarely seen elsewhere in such a short distance. It is like moving from a rainforest to a sand dune in a 10-minute drive. 33. The tallest mountain measured from base to peak. Most people assume that Mount Everest is the tallest mountain in the world, but that title actually depends on how you measure height. If you measure from sea level to the summit, Everest wins. However, if you measure from the actual base of the mountain to the top, Mauna Kea on the Big Island of Hawaii is the undisputed champion. This massive shield volcano rises roughly 13,796 feet above sea level, but it also extends nearly 20,000 feet below the surface of the Pacific Ocean. When you add those numbers together, the total height of Mauna Kea is about 33,500 feet. That makes it more than 4,000 feet taller than Mount Everest. Imagine stacking about 11 Eiffel Towers on top of each other, and you still would not reach the height of this Hawaiian giant. Because the summit is so high and the air is so clear and dry, it is also home to the largest astronomical observatory in the world. It is one of the few places on the planet where you can go from a tropical beach to a snow-capped peak in the same afternoon. Just remember to bring a very heavy jacket for the summit. 32. A state that refuses to move its clocks. Hawaii is one of only two states in the United States that does not observe daylight saving time, with the other being Arizona. While the rest of the country is busy springing forward or falling back and ruining their sleep schedules, the people of Hawaii keep their clocks exactly where they are. This decision was officially made by the state legislature in 1967. The primary reason for this geographical quirk is Hawaii's location near the equator. Because the islands are so far south, there is very little variation in the length of daylight between the summer and winter months. In many northern states, the difference in daylight can be several hours, making the shift useful for saving energy or providing more evening light. In Hawaii, however, the sun rises and sets at roughly the same time throughout the entire year. Changing the clocks would offer almost no practical benefit to the residents. This means that Hawaii remains on Hawaii Aleutian Standard Time all year long. Consequently, the time difference between Hawaii and the mainland changes twice a year, which can be quite confusing for travelers trying to coordinate phone calls back home to their families or business partners. 31. The only state in the nation to grow coffee. While many Americans rely on coffee to start their day, very few realize that Hawaii is the only state in the country where coffee is grown commercially. The unique combination of volcanic soil, consistent tropical temperatures, and ample rainfall creates the perfect environment for coffee trees to flourish. While several islands produce coffee, the most famous variety comes from the Kona district on the Big Island. The Kona Coffee Belt is a tiny strip of land only about 2 miles wide and 20 miles long, located on the slopes of the Hualalai and Mauna Loa volcanoes. The geography here is special because the morning sun is usually followed by afternoon clouds and rain, which protects the sensitive coffee plants from the harsh heat. This produces a rich, smooth flavor that is prized by connoisseurs around the globe. In fact, true Kona coffee is quite rare and often expensive because the growing region is so small. It is like the champagne of the coffee world. You might find a few experimental trees in places like California or Florida, but Hawaii is the only place where it is a major and historic part of the agricultural economy and the local cultural identity. Before continuing, be sure to subscribe and leave a like to keep discovering the strange and incredible geography of our entire country. 30. The most active volcanic mass on Earth. Hawaii is home to Kilauea, which is widely recognized as one of the most active volcanoes on the entire planet. Located on the southeastern part of the Big Island within Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, this shield volcano has been erupting almost continuously for decades. The name Kilauea actually means much spreading in the Hawaiian language, which refers to the frequent outpourings of lava that have shaped the surrounding landscape. Unlike the explosive and dangerous eruptions of volcanoes like Mount St. Helens, Kilauea typically produces relatively gentle flows of basaltic lava. These flows can travel for miles, slowly oozing across the ground and even into the ocean, where the interaction between molten rock and cold salt water creates dramatic plumes of steam. Over the years, these eruptions have destroyed homes and covered entire roads, but they have also added hundreds of acres of brand new land to the island. It is a place where you can literally witness the process of the earth creating itself in real time. The volcano is considered the home of Pele, the Hawaiian goddess of fire and volcanoes, and it remains a site of immense geographical and cultural importance to the people of the islands. 29. A chain of over 100 islands. When most people think of Hawaii, they picture the 8 main islands that are popular with tourists. However, the Hawaiian archipelago is actually made up of 137 different islands, islets, and atolls that stretch across 1,500 miles of the Pacific Ocean. This massive chain of volcanic peaks was formed over millions of years as the Pacific tectonic plate moves slowly over a stationary hotspot in the Earth's mantle. The 8 major islands that everyone knows, such as Oahu, Maui, and Kauai, are at the southeastern end of the chain and are the youngest and largest. As you travel northwest, the islands become much older, smaller, and more eroded. Many of these northwestern islands are little more than tiny coral reefs or jagged rocks barely peeking above the waves. These remote areas are almost entirely uninhabited by humans and are protected as part of the Papahanaumokuakea Marine National Monument, which is one of the largest marine conservation areas in the world. It serves as a vital sanctuary for endangered species like the Hawaiian monk seal and various seabirds. This geographical span is so large that it would reach from the edge of Florida all the way up to Maine. 28. The highest sea cliffs in the world. The island of Molokai is home to some of the most dramatic geography in the world, specifically the massive sea cliffs found on its northern coast. These cliffs, known as the Pali, are officially recognized as the tallest sea cliffs on the planet. They rise nearly 3,000 3,900 feet straight up from the churning waters of the Pacific Ocean. To put that into perspective, that is more than 3 times the height of the Empire State Building in New York City. These vertical walls of green rock were formed thousands of years ago when a massive chunk of the island literally broke off and slid into the sea during a cataclysmic landslide. Because they are so steep and remote, there are no roads that lead to them. The only ways to see these giants are from the air in a helicopter or from the water on a boat. Many of these cliffs are draped in lush tropical vegetation and feature spectacular waterfalls that drop hundreds of feet directly into the ocean. The isolation of this area helped preserve the site of the former Kalaupapa leper colony, which is nestled at the base of the cliffs and remains one of the most secluded spots in all of Hawaii. 27. The only state composed entirely of islands. Hawaii holds the unique geographical distinction of being the only state in the United States that is composed entirely of islands. Every other state in the Union is part of the North American continent, but Hawaii sits all by itself in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. In fact, it is the most isolated population center on the face of the earth. It is located about 2,400 miles from the coast of California and nearly 4,000 miles from Japan. This isolation is what allowed Hawaii to develop such a unique and diverse ecosystem, with thousands of plants and animals that are found nowhere else in the world. Being an island state means that everything from food to fuel must be either grown locally or shipped in by sea or air, which contributes to the higher cost of living in the islands. It also means that there are no bordering states to drive to for a weekend road trip. When you are in Hawaii, you are truly surrounded by the vastness of the ocean in every direction. This geographical reality shapes the culture, the economy, and the way of life for everyone who calls these beautiful islands their home. 26. The mystery of the Forbidden Isle. Niihau is perhaps the most mysterious island in the entire Hawaiian chain, and it is widely known as the Forbidden Isle. Located just southwest of Kauai, this privately owned island has been off limits to the general public for over a century. It was purchased in 1864 by Elizabeth Sinclair from King Kamehameha IV, and her descendants, the Robinson family, still own and manage the island today. The geographical isolation of Niihau has allowed it to remain a living time capsule of traditional Hawaiian culture. The primary language spoken on the island is Hawaiian, and the residents live without many modern amenities like paved roads, telephone lines, or plumbing. Most of the power is generated by solar panels, and the people rely on fishing and ranching for their livelihoods. Access is strictly controlled to protect the privacy of the residents and the integrity of their culture. Only invited guests, government officials, and those on specific guided tours are allowed to step foot on the island. It is a place where time seems to have stood right still, offering a rare glimpse into what the islands were like before the arrival of modern tourism and development changed the landscape. 25. A crater large enough to hold a city. The summit of Haleakala on the island of Maui features a massive volcanic depression that is often called a crater, though it was actually formed by erosion rather than an eruption. Regardless of its technical origin, the scale of this geographical feature is absolutely enormous. The depression is about 7 miles long, 2 miles wide, and nearly 2,600 feet deep. To give you an idea of just how huge that is, you could fit the entire island of Manhattan inside the crater walls. The landscape at the top is so desolate and alien that it looks more like the surface of the moon than a tropical island. It is filled with colorful cinder cones, jagged lava rocks, and rare plants like the silver sword, which grows nowhere else on the planet. Because of the high elevation of over 10,000 feet, the air is thin and the temperatures can drop below freezing, even while people are sunbathing on the beaches just a few miles below. Watching the sunrise from the rim of Haleakala is a world-famous experience, as the light slowly illuminates the vast and silent valley below, revealing a landscape that feels like it belongs on another planet entirely. 24. The birth of a brand new Hawaiian island. Off the southeastern coast of the Big Island, a silent giant is waking up in the deep blue. Known officially as Kamaehuakanaloa, though you might recognize its former name Loihai, this is an active submarine volcano that represents the next chapter of Hawaiian geography. It currently sits about 975 meters below the ocean surface. But do not let its submerged status fool you. Measured from the seafloor, this mountain is already taller than Mount St. Helens was before its famous eruption. Scientists estimate estimate that this glowing child of the sea began forming around 400,000 years ago. Through a combination of explosive and effusive eruptions, it is slowly building its way toward the air. If you are planning a beach vacation there, however, you will need extreme patience. At its current growth rate, it will take between 10,000 and 100,000 years to breach the waves and become the newest Hawaiian island. It is a fantastic reminder that the archipelago is a living, breathing entity that continues to expand through the immense power of the volcanic hotspot located far beneath the crust of the Pacific Plate. 23. The endangered species capital of the world. Hawaii is often called the endangered species capital of the world, and for good geographical reason. Because these islands are the most isolated land masses on the planet, life evolved here in a vacuum for millions of years. This resulted in a staggering 90% of terrestrial species being endemic, meaning they are found nowhere else on this green earth. Think of it like a biological fortress where evolution took a very specific and lonely path. Unfortunately, this isolation makes the local flora and fauna incredibly vulnerable to outside changes. Although the state represents less than 1% of the total land area of the United States, it contains more than 40% of the federally listed threatened and endangered species. This includes a massive portion of the nation's endangered plants and almost every native forest bird, from the rare Hawaiian monk seal to the tiny colorful snails in the mountains. The geography of isolation has created a double-edged sword. It produced some of the most unique creatures you will ever see, yet it also placed them on a very fragile pedestal where even small environmental shifts can lead to permanent extinction. 22. The Grand Canyon of the Pacific. If you travel to the island of Kauai, you will encounter a geological masterpiece often called the Grand Canyon of the Pacific. Waimea Canyon is a spectacular gash in the earth that stretches 16 kilometers long and reaches depths of over 900 meters. While it might look like its famous cousin in Arizona, its origin story is uniquely Hawaiian. This massive gorge was formed not just by the steady erosion of the Waimea River, but also by a catastrophic collapse of the central volcano on Kauai millions of years ago. The walls are a striking mosaic of red, brown, and green hues, showcasing layers of basaltic lava flows that have been weathered over eons. The landscape is so rugged and vertical that it creates its own microclimates, where mist often clings to the sharp ridges and hidden waterfalls plunge into the valley floor. It is a place where you can truly visualize the sheer power of water and gravity working against volcanic rock. Whether you are viewing it from the overlooks or hiking the winding trails, the scale of this geographical marvel is a humbling reminder of the ancient forces that sculpted the Garden Isle. 21. The southern tip of the United States. The southernmost tip of the 50 United States is not in Florida, as many people mistakenly believe, but at a place called Calais on the Big Island. This windswept rocky point is a National Historic Landmark District because it is likely where the first Polynesians landed when they arrived in Hawaii from Tahiti. The geography here is intense and unforgiving. The confluence of powerful ocean currents, known as the Halea Current, makes the water here extremely dangerous for swimming, but incredible for fishing. Ancient Hawaiians actually drilled holes into the solid lava ledges so they could moor their canoes and drift out to sea without being swept away by the relentless tides. Because the wind blows nearly constantly across this flat peninsula, it is also home to a significant wind farm that generates renewable energy for the island. Standing at the edge of the cliffs, you are looking out toward nothing but thousands of miles of open ocean until you reach Antarctica. It is a raw and powerful landscape that serves as the geographical anchor for the entire archipelago, marking the final frontier of the northern hemisphere in the Central Pacific. 20. The immense mass of Mauna Loa. Mauna Loa is the heavy champion of the volcanic world, and its geographical stats are truly mind-bending. While Mount Everest is famous for its height above sea level, Mauna Loa is significantly taller when measured from its actual base on the floor of the Pacific. It rises about 9,144 meters from the bottom of the sea, which is roughly 300 meters more than Everest's summit elevation. However, the most impressive part of its geography mystery is its sheer weight. This mountain is so massive that its weight actually depresses the ocean floor beneath it by another 8 kilometers. This means the total height of the volcanic pile from the depressed base to the summit is over 17 kilometers. This single volcano makes up more than 50% of the entire Big Island and is almost twice the size of all the other Hawaiian islands combined. It is a classic shield volcano, meaning its lava is so fluid that it flows over long distances to create broad, gently sloping sides rather than a steep peak. It is a literal giant whose mass is so great that it bends the very crust of the earth. 19. The world's highest elevation swamp. High atop the central plateau of Kauai lies the Alakai Swamp, which holds the title of the highest elevation swamp on the planet, situated at approximately 1,200 meters above sea level. This misty and prehistoric landscape is one of the wettest places in existence. It receives an average of nearly 1,200 centimeters of rain every single year. The geography here is a bizarre mix of treeless bogs, peaty soil, and stunted vegetation that has adapted to the constant saturation. Because the ground is so soggy, unique plants and rare birds found nowhere else have made this plateau their final refuge. Navigating the swamp is notoriously difficult because of the deep mud and dense fog that can roll in at any moment, obscuring the horizon. The name Alakai actually translates to a one-file track, referring to the narrow paths people must use to cross the unstable terrain. It is a montane cloud forest that feels like a world lost in time, where the sheer volume of water falling from the sky has created a perched wetland on top of an ancient volcanic mountain. It is a vivid example of how high altitude and extreme rainfall can create unique ecosystems. 18. The Cathedral Cliffs and Sea Caves of Napali. The Napali coast on Kauai is famous for its emerald green cliffs that tower up to 1,200 meters above the sea, but the most fascinating geographical features are hidden at the waterline. Over millions of years, the relentless power of the Pacific waves has carved deep sea caves into the base of these volcanic walls. One of the most spectacular is the open ceiling cave, known in Hawaiian as Pukalani. This massive cavern was once a closed lava tube, but the roof eventually collapsed due to erosion, creating a giant natural skylight. During the summer months when the ocean is calm enough to enter by boat, sunlight streams through the opening and illuminates the turquoise water below, creating a heavenly glow against the sandy bottom. Other caves along this 17-mile stretch of coastline extend deep into the dark rock, some featuring internal waterfalls or hidden beaches. These caves are a testament to the constant battle between the land and the sea, where the ocean is slowly but surely reclaiming the volcanic rock. The intricate geography of these cliffs and caverns makes this coastline one of the most rugged and beautiful places in the entire world. 17. The glittering emerald sands of Papakolea. In a remote corner of the Big Island near South Point, you will find one of the rarest geographical sites on the planet, a beach with olive green sand. Papakolea Beach is one of only 4 such places in the world, and its color comes from a mineral called olivine. This mineral is a common component of Hawaiian lava and is often referred to as the Hawaiian diamond. The beach is nestled within a 50,000-year-old cinder cone that has been partially eroded by the sea. As the waves crash against the volcanic cone, they wash away the lighter ash and black sand, leaving behind the heavier and denser green olivine crystals. Over thousands of years, these crystals have accumulated to create a striking green shoreline that contrasts beautifully with the deep blue ocean. Because olivine is a silicate mineral containing iron and magnesium, it is quite durable, though it will eventually weather away into fine dust. For now, however, the constant erosion of the surrounding cliffs provides a steady supply of new green sand. Reaching this secluded bay requires a long hike across dusty pasture land, but the sight of a glittering emerald beach is a geological reward like no other. 16. The exploding birth of black sand beaches. While green sand is a rarity, Hawaii is perhaps most famous for its jet-black coastlines, and Punaluu Beach is the crown jewel of them all. The geography of this beach is a direct result of the violent meeting between fire and water. When molten basaltic lava from the nearby volcanoes reaches the ocean, it cools so rapidly that it essentially explodes into tiny glass fragments. These fragments are then smoothed by the action of the waves over time, resulting in a shore made of soft, midnight midnight black sand. One of the most interesting geographical quirks of Punaluu is the presence of cold freshwater springs that bubble up from the ocean floor. Because freshwater is less dense than saltwater, it floats on top, which can create a strange shimmering effect in the water. This beach is also a century. The construction of the Alawai Canal drained these wetlands, and the beach began to suffer from severe erosion because the natural flow of sand was disrupted by seawalls and piers. To maintain the iconic white sand shoreline that tourists expect, Hawaii has been importing sand for decades. Historically, massive amounts of sand were shipped in from Manhattan Beach in California, and more recently, sand has been dredged from offshore deposits. This continuous effort to replenish the coastline is necessary because the ocean currents naturally want to pull the sand back into the sea. This means that if humans stopped intervening, Waikiki Beach would eventually disappear entirely, leaving only a rocky shoreline behind. It is a fascinating example of how a globally recognized geographical landmark can be a product of both natural beauty and persistent human engineering to combat the relentless forces of erosion. 12. The partially submerged volcanic crescent. Molokai is a tiny crescent-shaped islet located in the Alalakiki Channel between the islands of Maui and Kahulawe. This unique geographical feature is actually the rim of a partially submerged volcanic cinder cone that erupted approximately 230,000 years ago. Because of its shape, the interior of the islet provides a naturally sheltered harbor that protects marine life from the strong currents and waves of the open ocean. This has created an incredibly clear and thriving underwater environment, making it one of the most famous snorkeling and diving locations in the world. The water inside the crater is often so transparent that visibility can exceed 150 feet. Because the islet is a federally protected marine life conservation district, the coral reefs are remarkably healthy and teeming with hundreds of species of tropical fish. No one is allowed to set foot on the rocky surface of the islet itself, as it is also a state bird sanctuary for nesting seabirds like the wedge-tailed shearwater. Its perfect semicircle shape is a stunning visual reminder of the violent volcanic history that shaped the Hawaiian chain, now serving as a peaceful sanctuary for wildlife. 11. The White Mountains of the Tropics. Although Hawaii is famous for its year-round warm weather and palm trees, it is also a place where one can find significant amounts of snow. The summits of Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa on the Big Island are both over 13,000 feet high, which is high enough for freezing temperatures and winter storms to occur frequently. During the winter months, these peaks are often blanketed in deep snow, a phenomenon that has earned Mauna Kea the name White Mountain in the Hawaiian language. In fact, it is not uncommon for people to go skiing or snowboarding on the slopes of these volcanoes in the morning and then drive down to the coast to go surfing in the afternoon. This radical geographical contrast is possible because of the extreme elevation changes over very short distances. The snow is not just a novelty, it plays a crucial role in the island's water cycle, as it slowly melts and filters down through the volcanic rock into the underground aquifers. While most people pack bikinis for a Hawaiian vacation, the locals know that a heavy parka is an essential piece of gear for the summit. Remember to subscribe and like to keep critical habitat for the endangered Hawaiian green sea turtle, also known as the honu, which loves to bask on the dark sand to absorb the sun's warmth. The high iron content of the black sand makes it much hotter than typical white sand, providing the perfect natural heating pad for these ancient reptiles. It is a stunning example of how active volcanism creates new land. 15. The Crimson Shores of Kaihululu. Tucked away on the eastern shore of Maui near the town of Haina is the surreal and dangerous Kaihululu Beach, known for its deep crimson sand. The geography here feels like something from another planet. The beach is located at the foot of a crumbling cinder cone called Kawiki Head, which has a very high iron content. As the hill erodes, it spills rust-colored cinders onto the shore, where the salt air and water further oxidize the iron to create a brilliant red hue. The name Kaihululu actually means roaring sea in Hawaiian, a fitting description for the turbulent waters that crash against the jagged coastline. Because the cove is partially protected by a natural wall of jagged lava rock, a small pool of calm water is often formed, contrasting sharply with the red sand and the green ironwood trees. Accessing this hidden gem is notoriously difficult and involves a narrow, slippery trail on the side of a steep cliff that has seen many accidents over the years. It is a fragile landscape where the forces of oxidation and erosion have combined to create a color palette that is as beautiful as it is rare in the natural world. 14. The underwater architecture of the North Shore. The legendary waves of the north shore of Oahu, particularly at the Banzai Pipeline, are a product of some very specific underwater geography. During the winter months, massive storms in the North Pacific send powerful swells, traveling thousands of miles toward the islands. When these deep water waves finally reach the coastline, they encounter a unique series of flat, cavernous coral reefs that rise abruptly from the depths. This bathymetry, or underwater topography, causes the wave to feel the bottom and react violently. Because the reef at Pipeline is shallow and features sharp ledges, the bottom of the wave slows down while the top continues at full speed, causing it to pitch forward into a perfect hollow tube. The reef is also shaped like a bowl, which focuses the energy of the swell into a single point, amplifying the height and power of the break. When the conditions are just right, the air trapped inside the crashing wave explodes out the front in a spray of mist. It is a masterclass in oceanography, where the invisible shape of the seabed dictates the visible power and beauty of the most famous surf break on the planet. 13. The beach that is shipped in by boat. The world-famous Waikiki Beach on the island of Oahu is a geographical masterpiece that is actually largely artificial. While it looks perfectly natural today, much of the original shoreline was once a swampy marshland filled with duck ponds and taro patches. In the early 20th